Hello, good evening, and welcome. Today, the topic is going to be about trade, industry, and commerce in general for Ghana. And the 2014 budget has come up, and we want to see what opportunities is in there for trade and industry. Now, when we talk about industry, you see, you look at Tema, and not much has been added to the industry in Tema. You look at the industrial area in Accra, and indeed it's diminished. Industries are closing down. What can we do? When you talk about trade, everybody is buying from China and just selling. And to us, that is trade. What can we do to boost local industry and local trade where things made in Ghana are bought in Ghana, consumed in Ghana, and maybe look more within the West African region rather than the proverbial across the seas to further away? But then again, I am not an economist. I'm going to take my break, and then when I come back, I'll get people in the know to talk and explain to us what indeed is happening to trade and industry. Hello and welcome back to the show. Obviously, PM Express. My name is Nanan Sakwa, and we're discussing trade, commerce, and the 2014 budget in relation with trade and commerce. Joining me on the phone is John Gachi, who is a financial analyst. Later on, Kofi Bentil might join us in studio, but until then, I'm going to engage with John on the phone. Good evening, John. Hello, John.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Well, John, today the discussion obviously is on trade and industry. And we look at what we've done in 2013 and then looking into 2014, what could be done. Primarily, as soon as you talk trade, what the average man thinks is that you go and buy something from China, which is the obvious, bring it somewhere, find a table or a shop, and sell. And to us, that's become trade. Industry is complaining. Energy, taxes, unfair competition with the outside world, but I'll start with trade. Should we just accept that it's cheaper to buy from abroad and sell, so that's the way we're going to go?
Well, I do not think that in all the trade policies we have, the implication is that we should just buy from abroad and sell within the country. Our trade policies tend to focus on trying to increase our export produce to many countries to bring in foreign currency. Mm-hmm. But what has happened over the years, especially in the late 80s and early 90s, is that as a result of the structural adjustment program that we have adopted, we ended up over liberalizing our economy, mm-hmm. Making it very difficult to compete with outside world. And as a result of that, the only way to keep people in business is to import from these countries and sell within the country. So the intention of the trade policy is not to be a buyer and distributor of people's manufactured products, but to engage in manufacturing, add value to our produce and export. But the over-liberalization of our economy does not allow that to happen effectively. And as a result of that, we are not very much competitive when it comes to production for exports.
I see. And you see, the difficulty we have is, it's year in, year out, we've always talked about the same thing. And what I'm saying, if we are not going to change, John, if we are not going to change, and this is going to be the culture, can't we just accept it as a culture and, accept that, look, let's buy and sell?
Well, there are some countries that we are calling emerging countries or emerging economies today. Countries like China, Singapore, South Korea, they've all suffered the same thing that we are suffering today. But they didn't give up. They tried to put up a long-term trade policy framework, a long-term policy that affects the entire economy, and that actually draw the attention of the people and the entire economy into export-led economy. And as a result of that, they've been able to overcome the situation to the extent the export of China goes to almost every part of the world today. So the fact that we are suffering this fate does not mean that we should give up and just continue to be importer of people's produce and come and distribute in our country. Because this has a lot of implication for us. It has an implication for our current account. Currently, our current account has been running deficits for a very long time. It has implication for the strength of our currency, and that has implication for the general well-being of the economy. So it is not in our interest to continue to be importer of this produce, some of which are very cheap, and we are only serving as a dumping ground for some of this produce in our country. So we cannot continue with that. We should just adopt policies like China, Singapore, and South Korea have done. They were in the stage where we were before, but looking forward into the future and putting the policies that matter, help them to be where they are today. So we cannot give up. We need to be encouraged to look ahead and see what we could do to change the trend.
John, I like we cannot give up spirit, but on top of that is EPA, Economic Partnership Agreement looming in the background, where it says that, look, we'll bring in our goods free of charge. You don't tax our goods when they come. I mean, is it going to make the matter better, or is it going to worsen our situation, or is it a 50-50 situation?
Well, the point is that the world is in competition in terms of distribution of goods that are produced in each country. This thing goes with a lot of negotiation. But the stronger you are in terms of bargaining and negotiation, the better your prospect looks like. Our economies and our political system have been very weak based on a lot of factors. We depend on these same countries and economic blocs for a lot of support. Even for our own democratic process, we depend on most European countries, North America, to support us for our democratic process. Our government institutions depend on them. We depend on them for budgetary support. And as a result of that, our bargaining power is always very weak. Our political strength is always very weak. That largely affects us when it comes to this negotiation. I think we can draw from the AGOA opportunity that came to us. At that time, we look at it as one of the windows to increase our export into America and to enhance our export earnings and diversify our export. But within the AGOA agreement, many people were not aware there are some clauses that you need to fulfill. Issues such as democratic credential and some of the things that you are going to send into the American economy is such that you need to import raw materials from America, except that if they don't have that raw material, it is only that you are allowed to take it from your country. That was the reason why most of the projects under AGOA could not actually last for a long period of time. You remember there was some industry set up to produce socks to send specifically to send to the U.S. market. But some of the materials to be used for the production of these items were supposed to be imported from America. And that was a difficulty. So because of our weak position, there are a lot of conditions enshrined in all these things. And at the end of it, if we are not careful, we do not stand to gain. When we come to the EPA, we need to also understand that they want to protect their producers in their country, and we also want to protect our producers here. From what I stated earlier on, because of our weak position, it is very difficult to get a 50-50 deal from this EPA. I believe that because of our weak political strength and our weak bargaining power, because of the support that we receive from many of these countries, it is going to be very difficult that we are going to get a 50-50 deal in the EPA. Definitely, I know we are going to sign. We may make every noise, but if we do not sign, the repercussion for our economy is more than if we go and sign. That is what I can perceive. You can also link this into what has happened to our 2012 and 2013 budget. You will recall that recently when the donor partners claimed that they are not going to release their donor support for our budget timely, they made a particular statement without explanation. They say that they withheld the funds because of certain things they were not satisfied with. Now that they have been, it's like they are now satisfied that those things that they were considering will be done with. So as a result of that, they were willing to release the funds. So all these things will be linked to a lot of things that may affect us in the future. And as a result of that, you will have no option but to go to sign something that may not give you a 50-50 benefit, but it will give you some benefit, but not the full benefit that you would like for your economy.
Thank you very much.
And this is a reality that we cannot run away from.
John, thank you. Let me acknowledge Kofi Bentil. Kofi has joined us in the studio now. Kofi, welcome.
Thank you, Nana.
That's a dilemma we have on our hand. We have a weak bargaining position. It's better if we sign, because then if you sign, they won't put as many sanctions on you as if you don't sign. And what do we do with EPA situation? Do we sign, or do we put our foot down and say, look, to hell with it, we're going to bite the bullet now and, face the storm?
I think it's a matter of strategy. Some people have taken it a bit too emotionally. You are in a certain situation and you are presented with certain facts. You look at the surrounding circumstances and make the best choice possible. Take out the emotion. Okay, it's a global village now. So this sign, don't sign business, look, it shouldn't come to that. What it should come to is this. What are our options and what do we stand to gain given each option? And if our leaders do that kind of analysis, it should be easy whether to sign or not. Now, sometimes you have to do a bad deal just to survive for the short run. But if you are smart, what you do is that whilst you do a bad deal to survive, you shore up your leverage to the point where when the next time comes around, you will be in a better position to negotiate better for yourself. Now, if you are in that kind of situation, that bad deal really is about survival. So for me, it's not about getting emotional and decide, do we sign? We don't have an option. Why? Why? Because we've sat around for 30 years in this country and done nothing about our strategic options, all right? We still run a Godgesberg economy, okay? So this thing about sign or not sign, the thing is, let our leaders come down with the options we have. If we choose to sign, let's sign. Choose not to sign, explain why, and then figure out what our strategies are so that when the next round comes, we'll have a better leverage.
Kofi, well, the next round, by the time it comes, won't we be even worse off if after 30 years we haven't been able to gather any leverage to even go on come to the table with any negotiation skills or negotiation power, and then we sign it? Won't the economy be so weak that you probably won't be able to come and just say, look, text me what agreement you're going to do and I'll agree to it? Because by that time, where do we stand? Indeed, if something is produced in the EU region, comes here, and you're not supposed to tax, and you're supposed to produce the same thing here, and by all means, we will tax our guys, because otherwise then everything is going to be tax-free. By the time the next agreement comes, I mean, what leverage you stand? Because by that, we'll be probably going to them to get money for anything. I mean, they're paying for sanitation, they're paying for clean water, they're paying for our voting, elections. By that time, Kofi would have lost. I say we should bite the bullet now.
You see, you made certain assumptions, and that is what a lot of times happens. Oh, okay, so we sign now, won't the economy be so weak? We are doing this. Many people have not seen what's in the EPA. And there are these wild stories. I'm neither a fan nor against the EPA. I mean, I have a background in strategy, and I always say, when you're presented with situations, figure out your options and make the best choices. So the assumptions people make about the EPA and what it is about, I think for the most part are wrong. Nobody is really out there to kill you, contrary to what people believe. Okay, so this idea about if we sign the EPA now,
good.
Exactly the point. And in marketing, we have what we call mutually beneficial exchanges. The philosophy of it is that don't kill your customer. Because if your customer dies, you have nobody to trade with.
Kofi, in this case, they want to kill us. Because once we die, we need their goods.
No. So you are saying die. That's the point.
You see, but die and kill your industry and take mine.
You see, they are thinking about what is good for them. You too think about what is good for you. Who says you have to drink milk? Who says we can't be dressed like this to work? Who says lawyers must wear a wig and collar? Think for yourself. If you choose not to think for yourself, and you'll be buying V8s and running them, and you insist that your lawyer should wear a suit in this sun, okay? You will insist that you'll be drinking tea and other things. That's your choice. Nobody stops us from making certain choices. All right? So this thing about somebody is coming to kill you, colonialism ended 50-something years ago. The assumption you made in terms of we are all going to collapse if we sign the EPA is assuming that we will continue in this whole slumber of not thinking for ourselves, not strategizing, not planning, but just sit down and just be consuming things. All right? I can give you examples, but I'm tired of giving them, of countries that woke up, decided to switch on their brains, and they thought themselves out of problems. Okay, so that's the point I'm coming to. He is not there to kill you. He's thinking for himself. And for God's sake, he must think for himself. We have 12 months of sunshine in this country, and we can't grow food. They have 3 months for growing food, and they feed us. All right? I mean, somebody has been able to take a hat out of somebody's chest, put it in another person's chest, sewed it up, and the guy goes running, and we can't dig gutters in this country. We can't keep street lights on. You understand? We have switched off our brains, and we are just feeding off some people, and then we turn around and blame them. So now what I'm saying is this: the EPA is not your problem. Development is thinking intensive. The assumption that if we sign it today, we are going to die off is based on the premise that we will never think. I refuse to be part of that group. That's why I'm sitting here today. Okay? If we all decide we are going to think our way out, you didn't tell me to wear this here. I didn't tell you to wear this there. Okay? And I keep saying that there are certain things that we can do for ourselves. It has nothing to do with the white man, okay, which can make sure that 20, 30 years' time, our conditions will be different, okay? If we choose not to do that, you can't blame anybody, okay, for your predicament.
Let me get John. John, we live in a society which is seriously westernized by thinking. From the president's attire, I think this president actually does very well. To be honest, let me give credit to president. But, we live in a very westernized mentality. And then we go and sign this, assuming that once we sign it, we'll wake up one morning and start thinking Ghanaian. I don't see that in the next probably 10, 20 years. I don't see it happening. I don't know if you see it. Have I got John?
Hello?
Yes, John.
Can you recap the question?
Yes. See, Kofi is saying that it's okay to sign this contract because you can sign the contract and then suddenly we buy Ghana, believe in Ghana, so they can flood the market with their goods, and we won't buy because we want to wear African prints and drink Hausa cocoa instead of Lipton tea or Earl Grey tea. But then I'm saying that we live in a society which doesn't, it proves otherwise, where we are hungry for things that are made in the Western world. And if they come in tax-free, we will be doomed rather than saved.
Well, it was the same point I was making, that China, South Korea, Singapore were in the same position like ours. Mm-hmm. But because they look at forward, they engage in forward-looking policies, that has resulted in today getting to where they are today. So the whole thing depends on us. While we are all taught EPA, we have forgotten that we have not exploited the West African market. We have forgotten that we have not exploited the African market. We have also forgotten that we are not even sending to Asia. So all these opportunities are there for us to exploit, but we are not doing that. And we think that all that we need depends on the EPA. People become so agitated, very emotional about the whole issue, and all the arguments that people make, you do not actually see clear economic policy arguments in the whole discussion. So I believe that for EP, we are definitely going to sign. as a result of the issue that I raised from the beginning. It is now left to us that apart from the European market, there are a lot of untapped markets that we need to think about. Rather than allowing the onion to be coming from Nigeria, Burkina Faso, and go into our country, either than allow them from Cote d'Ivoire, when we can actually engage in all these things. We are not doing those things. So we need to look at our trade policies again to take advantage of the market that we have not yet exploited. That is the way forward.
West Africa is a big market. But Kofi, you go onto the market to buy a TV. And there's one that's come from EPA Europe, so obviously it's probably 900 cedis cheaper than the one that was made by RLG. And you're standing there with 2,000 cedis, or you can buy 2,900. You then have to make a call that, what? No, I'm going to buy Ghana, so I'll pay 900 cedis extra because he hasn't gotten the same benefit of EPA. It would hurt us in that way.
And I don't say anybody should buy Ghana simply because it's Ghana. Buy good quality stuff. Okay, so I'm not one of the people who believes in that. I mean, of course, there's a certain level of patriotism. If the quality levels, the price levels are a bit close, maybe you have to make a choice for your country. But look, it's a globalized village, and some of the arguments we are using right now are 50 years old and they are no longer valid. The world has gone through 3 major economic epochs, and in each epoch, the entire paradigm shifts. There is a pre-World War II, epoch. That was when production capacity was low. So you had craftsmen making furniture. You didn't have mass production. All right? That's pre-World War II. There was a totally different argument, economic argument for that period and how to survive it. And that is when, different things worked. Then you have post-World War II. Because of the war, production capacity expanded very quickly. Technology just, expanded, and people knew how to do things and produce things. And so you had that expansion, and that's how we got ultimately mass production. So it became a buyer's market. And then you had a situation where from the 60s into the mid-70s, you had a computer revolution. It really kicked up in the 80s and ultimately led to globalization, to make it simple. Now, that is a totally different ballgame and totally different economic, theories applied to this, new epoch. And that is the area we have to play in. This is the epoch we have to play in. I have had cause to say in different places that, look, the Industrial Revolution is over. The world works by trade. Even if you shut your borders like North Korea, you can't prevent people, from interacting with others in the other parts of the world. And it comes down to which goods you buy and all those kinds of things. Because the Industrial Revolution is over, there will be a certain difficulty in trying to match up with industrial capacity which has been built over 30 years. To put it in simple terms, look, it will be very difficult for us to match the manufacturing capacity and efficiency of China. These are facts. There's a lot of emotion in policy making. But when you deal with the facts and you analyze them that way, it's possible for you to tone down a bit on the emotion. So, if we cannot match China's production capacity and efficiency, and we choose to shut our borders to Chinese goods, or choose to shut our borders to things coming from other places because they tend to be cheaper, do you know what we are doing? We are punishing our people by forcing them to either buy inferior goods or buy good things at too high a price. And that affects poor people more than rich people. So what do you do in this time? There is something called value chain collaboration. Value chain collaboration says that don't try to produce anything. During Kwame Nkrumah's time, we tried to do import substitution. We tried it, it didn't work well. We hit a snag around Achampon's time. And we said, yeah, because we're owing, and we locked our borders because we were going to protect local industries. That led us to the famines of 1983. The whole economy tanked. From then, we opened our borders, and it led to a lot of, all the things that we are seeing today, which is not bad. But what it means is that our industries can't compete. Why can't they compete? Because they are insisting on producing everything from scratch. That is why VACO is not working. It can't work. Why? Because it's insisting on producing everything from ground up. So value chain collaboration is where you look at somebody and say, look, which part of this whole value chain can I produce best? And then you go to China and tell them, guys, don't produce everything and ship it down to us. You produce it to this point, ship it here, and let's continue the rest. Instead of trying to do everything yourself, point I'm trying to make is that this whole idea of we should shut down our economy or close it up so that we can grow our industries, produce our own things, or we should buy Ghana, even if it is not good quality, won't work. Because of globalization, we need more thinking. We need to understand the facts of our times and work with these facts to make sure we can get what we want. Otherwise, we'll keep paying too much for inferior goods. We'll keep denying ourselves all kinds of things, and the rest of the world will be moving on.
I'll take a break here, and then when I come back, then I just want to find out, as a country, can we pick at least just 10 items and say that for this item, an iron, a pen, a chalk, something that for this item, we don't need anybody in the value chain. We can do it on our own. We're coming back. Well, hello and welcome back to the discussion. We're going to look at EPA and look at trade, and EPA alone is just keeping us here. But just before we went on a break, I was asking, fine, maybe we can't say we're shutting our borders and we won't let anything in. But all the things that we consume as a nation, I mean, if we list 10 items, and I said an iron, a fan, a bulb, can't we say, as for these things, we are capable of making them, and indeed, we close our borders to it, and then maybe gradually build on it. Let me start with John on the phone. Hello, John.
Hello.
Yeah, John, can't we just take 10 items as a nation and say for these items, I don't need EPA on these things, or don't even bring it because we can put, and there's basic things like a fan, an iron, a radio set. I mean, surely, the guys from tech will be able to make something like that for us.
Well, I think since 1776, Adam Smith made it very clear to us how nations should be focusing. It is not everything that you can produce efficiently. If you want to do that, you can move forward. So you need to identify what your strength is in terms of productive capacity, efficiency, labor costs, capacity in sense of technology, and focus on those areas in exchange for other things that you know that you cannot efficiently do. Because the thing is that if you focus on the things that you can do efficiently, you tend to do them efficiently, you tend to do them at cheaper cost, and you are able to exploit market for them. But if we try to bundle all these things, we want to do everything here, when we know very well we cannot do those things, I do not think that is the policy we should be following. The thing again is that, like the gentleman in the studio said, that we close our borders. Even in the West African sub-region, these issues, we need to fight it not only from an individual nation point of view. We need to collaborate from a regional bloc point of view, from African point of view. But you will realize that an issue is emerging in West Africa, for example. If you go to the border between Nigeria and Benin, ECOWAS itself has actually conducted a research that about 70% of the trade that is going on there is in black market. And the thing that, because people will always want to trade among themselves, if the borders, if you do not give them the opportunity to do so, they will engage in the black market economy. And we want to engage in trade so that it does not help us only in terms of export revenue, but it also helps us in terms of tax revenue and many other things. But the moment you close the door, you do not enhance the opportunities. People will by all means trade, but that will be done in the black market, and other benefits you are supposed to get as a nation from those trading activities, you will not be able to get. So I think we need to focus on these things and know our strength and begin to do that. How many derivative products do we have from cocoa that are actually taking place in Ghana? And we should be thinking about some of these things as we go forward.
Kofi, there is a very good point there.
Absolutely good point. And indeed, by the time you finish doing all the thinking about these things, let me tell you something about West Africa. 350 million people. And 80% of these people really can't survive without Europe and America. So take just Ghana. 80% of our people don't drink tea and can survive without Europe or America. Indeed, coming with China, we can totally cut them off. Now, if you finish all the analysis, you come to realize that without necessarily worrying about Europe, if we focus on the West African sub-region, okay, there is so much we can do within the sub-region, okay, that this whole fixation on Europe and America can be toned down so much so that they will now start seeking us, okay, because we live in a region which is really rich in resources, heavily populated, the most populated part of Africa, all right, and our demand is substantial, okay, take Nigeria alone and all that. So by the time you finish all of this, you come to realize that the real solution lies in looking in ECOWAS. Unfortunately, we are killing ECOWAS. I have had opportunity to say elsewhere that if we scrapped all the borders within ECOWAS, crime will not increase. Business will quadruple. Why? Why? Because borders don't stop criminals. And I've gone to Togo border twice at least to check this thing. Borders only stop honest people. The criminals will come through all kinds of unapproved routes. And guess what is going through the borders? It's trade. It's ordinary people doing their stuff. And what he's talking about is true. Because of the problems there, people use all kinds of unapproved routes to do their businesses. Okay, let's try it and see. Look, I say ECOWAS, they should take 5 years, do a pilot, scrap the borders. Let's see what will happen. If hell breaks loose, put the borders back. Go to Togo border, you'll find that the people sitting there are just sitting there, not checking anything. They're just collecting rent. They're just collecting money from people. The criminals get through, the ordinary people are harassed. Now, look at AGOA, something that the U.S. did to open its market to us. We didn't do anything with it. Why? Why? Because fundamentally, we are not structured to take advantage of those things. Mm-hmm. That's why these EPS and things look like they're going to, give us problems. Selecting a few things to do to cut people out. You see, the thing is, think about the 80-20. It's 20% you and me who drink tea, do a couple of things and need Europe, all right? But the 80% of the people, really, they don't care. If you select a few of those people or whatever, a few things or whatever it is, will those things be the big ticket items that can change something in the economy? I doubt it, all right? But how about dealing with those big ticket things that potentially can change something in the economy? I would say let's go for the jugular, try something out. First, think through it. But absolutely think that, one, we can put our foot down and insist on refining at least 60% of our gold. The South Africans did it. They have Krugerrands. Okay? It would take a bit. It will be resisted. But that's one of those big ticket things, okay, which if you did can bring some significance. We stopped exporting round logs, insisted on milling. Okay? We can go further to process our timber a bit more. Take our oil. I am not one of the people who believe that we must refine all our oil. Okay, it takes a long time and it takes quite a bit of money to put that capacity in place. But I do believe if you take people like Dangote, okay, and a couple of people within the sub-region, if you put them around the table and let them think sub-regionally, Ghana is in such a situation where it is possible for us to build 1-2 more refineries, not from government money, but with people like this, and supply refined crude across the coast. These are not very simple things, but I'm saying these are things that you give yourself 20 years to do. And they are big ticket. You do them, they will change something within the economy. We are experiencing a construction boom in Ghana. It's been going on for about 10 years. Okay? But a lot of the things are imported. We could look at a few of things. And again, if you take the case of Dangote, apparently he's having problems, okay, selling cement across. Why? The rumors are that Gassem is one of the companies in his way. And there are other rumors behind why that is happening. But look, every little strategy should tell you that introducing more competition into an area will increase efficiency, lower prices, and that kind of thing. So we should be begging Dangote to come here, set up his factory. So there are a few things which I think are low-lying.
Flood the market with cement.
Okay, and we could do those things. And by the time we finish trying to serve 350 million people within ECOWAS, 80% of whom don't need Europe and America, you will find that we don't even need Europe that much. And those of us who really do need Europe, we will go and import our tea. We'll bring it in our suitcases. And the government can care less about those things because it won't make much of a difference.
Let me give the last word to John. So there's no need to panic.
Eh?
I said there's no need to panic.
I don't think there's any reason to panic. There's no reason to panic at all. Except that we should be able to refine our policies, look within the sub-region and look within Africa, and trying to increase our stake in Asia. There is no country in the world now. Those big players who are developing, they do not wake up without thinking about what they should do with Asia. These are the things that we should be doing today when we are redesigning our trade policies. If we're able to do that, we'll be on course. We'll give ourselves 10 to 15 years. We will be where some other countries are today.
Thank you very much, John. I like that 10 to 15 years. We seem to think that everything will happen over a year. I like that 10 to 15 years. Kofi, thank you very much. That's all time will allow me. But we're looking at, trade and the EPA and the effect, if it comes or not. But generally, don't panic. Nothing is going to change. So far as they flood the market with their goods and you and I buy Ghana, nothing's going to go bad. As I say, tomorrow we'll be back to do it all over again. Thanks for watching.